They're like, oh yeah, guy with Pepsi Steam comes in every once in a while. They're not really much really test LED in the headlight, but we'll take this.
Known quite well by all. She's the regular combination. She's a Wabash cannonball.
Proceed to 15. Hello, everybody. This is Pensy Joe back again for another in-depth review series video. And for those who've probably already seen the video like this before, that's because that has been deleted and is now being redone for my own personal reasons. It was not that good. But anywho, this is the Broadway Limited Imports Paragon 3 model right here. Let's start with the exterior look on the locomotive. So, these have only been made, I believe, 1 or 2 runs early on in Paragon 3's history. And for what it is, it's actually a pretty good looking locomotive. This is a die-cast body locomotive. Tender shell is die-cast. The shell of the boiler is die-cast, including the cab. I mean, it's great. This is a really lovely locomotive. I love that it's got die-cast and die-cast. More so the locomotive than the tender. You don't really need a die-cast tender. It just adds more weight. The weight's kind of just weight, you know. But the die-cast boiler helps with traction. That's great. Smoke box is also die-cast. I believe the smokestack's either brass, plastic, or metal. Some sort of metal. That's all I know. I'm not 100% sure. I can't. Cold touch test is not working with that. So yeah, I mean it just helps with, you know, the detail and all that stuff. And this is the die cast, so like there's no seam on top or anything like that. You don't see a remnant of a seam on top or anything like that. It's great. That's what I like about the exterior. And speaking of exterior details, you know, you got these nice plastic add-ons. I mean, these are not molded in or anything like that. I mean, the rivets are molded, and the boiler jacket sheath is, you know, molded because it's die cast. But everything else is separately applied pretty much, except maybe some of this detail. That's like a huge plastic piece in itself. It's not whole individual. And got the air tank in the front under the pilot platform right here. Really nice. It's a really well detailed model. I have to say Broadway did a really good job with detailing this model. And the 282, you know, Mikado, usually they have the USRA one. And that one's, you know, just your general USRA Mikado. But this was pretty much like one of their first, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first, you know, unique Mikado that they made. And the second one was actually more recently, like about a year or 2 ago, is the Santa Fe 282 Mikado, the 3000 class, or 4000 class. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's a Mikado. Santa Fe had their own specific Mikado as well. And this is the Pennsylvania-specific Mikado, the L1s. The only issue is that this gap over here could have been, you know, hidden better. You know, I mean, you could probably add like a piece or print out piece and wedge it in there, or glue it down, and then you can, you know, so it can have, you know, no, because in real life the frame, you know, will cover this right here, and you wouldn't see all the way through that. So that's my only main gripe about this. I mean, the coupler, you know, the drawbar, how close it is really nice. This is really good. This is almost realistic. I don't see. It looks like there used to be a drop plate for this. This is used, by the way, so maybe it did come with the drop plate and it's just missing, which is a shame. But you know, I'm not going to detract it from this model. This is the details on this are superb. You got the rear marker lights on here as well. They also light up in the rear headlight. This is a pre-1946 version. It's still post-war, but like It's got the headlight right over here, and you got the dynamo right here as well. You also got the whistle smoke deflector right here. This is usually what a lot of post-war locomotives have. And you got your safety valves and your bell. And I believe these are brass, but I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, you got your front marker lights that work. They're right up front. Let's try and get them into view. They're a little bit darkened because of the lighting. Need to bring this more into the light. There we go. And there are, I think these are Katy couplers. No. Are they? They feel like Katy couplers. If not, I can always replace them. They look metallic, but I'm not convinced that they're metal. Maybe they are. I don't know. I'm not going to break them to figure it out. So, yeah, and the roof colors are pretty much correct. This is a more reddish oxide color, and this is a more, brownish Tuscan red kind of color, but more so brown than really Tuscan red. It's really a darker oxide color that's more brownish, and this is a more brighter oxide red color right here. So again, it's really good. The details, it is symmetrical, which usually a lot of steam engines are. Here's the other side of the locomotive. I do wish that they painted this wheel black. I don't think it would cost much, if any at all, just to paint the pilot wheels black. Just do it, Broadway. Keep it consistent. For some reason, Broadway goes consistent, and sometimes they don't go consistent with painting the pilot wheels black. I really don't understand why they don't do that. Just do it for all of them, It makes it feel high grade and high quality and, worth the value a little bit more, Just to add sometimes a little bit more paint just adds more, makes it feel like the value is more justified. So, yeah, I mean, that's where we end right here with the details. I mean, under your tender, you don't have too much. You have your regular water scoop right there. You got your holes for your speakers. Some brake details right here with the cylinder, the air brake cylinder, and some of these levers, the cantilevers that help for the braking detail. This is your general, Broadway, brake detail under here, the brake linkage detail. Nothing too much really under here as well. Gearbox is covered also. So, this is what you see is what you get pretty much. But you're not going to really look under the locomotive, It's going to be on the track most of the time, so I don't really have complaints about that, really. So, right away, I'd like to give this, rating a 3 out of 3 for the details. 1 point is for, accuracy. Accuracy is pretty good. Really good, actually. I mean, unless you want to go brass, that's the only other way you're going to get this. Like I said, it's really great. The marker lights light up. That's another point for that. It's great to have more lighting features. I believe the cab lights up too. I'm not remembering right now, but I believe it does. And then you got the rear marker lights as well. So that's really cool that you have all those lighting features. And at the third point, I mean, overall the paint job is really good as well. Paint job on this is really accurate. On video, it looks like it's green. In person, it looks like it's black. I'm not sure why, but it's just how it comes out. So, and it's got legible, builder's plates and all that stuff. So that's pretty cool. And that's it for the details, really. The one thing I want to note about the box, though, is that the box is very unique. And when we get to that, I'll show you that in the next slide. Alrighty, so this is the box I'm talking about. So the box is very similar to Athearn Genesis and, well, I'm not going to say Scale Trains because they haven't done Steam yet. I'm not sure if they really did products where they have, the foam, this. Well, actually, you know what? They do. Yeah, I have the ES44 for crying out loud. But yeah, they have this black foam that you're used to seeing in Paragon 2 and Paragon 1. But now they have this glass, well, not glass, but, plastic glass kind of looking, cradle for these models. An example is the Challenger that not BLI, but Atherin makes with their Genesis line. And I think it's good. It's a good combination. For some reason, for example, the J1 only just has the foam. It doesn't have this as well. Paragon 3 had like, I believe 3 different iterations of how they do this. They have like a white foam like this all the way around the box. And that was mainly for the diesels for like the E units and I believe the F units as well. But then for Steam, they either go between this on some models and they have just a regular, only foam box. And this is the only time I've really seen this, clear plastic cover inside the box too. So I thought this was a really interesting, in my opinion, kind of box you'll see. Now, what else you get is your general run-of-the-mills, Paragon 3, operator's manual. There you go. For those who can't read sideways, that's okay. We don't really need to go through there. Once you read one of them, you've read all of them, especially if they're Steam. Diesel, it's intuitive. And when you got your 2-year warranty, you can double your 1-year warranty. Well, it's no warranty now after what I'm going to do with this after this video. And then you got your exploded parts diagram for your locomotive, for when you need to repair things and all those numbers you can do when you want parts. That's all I'm going to be doing is requesting parts for this thing if I ever had to get to that point. Request parts for anything that I need to replace. And most likely probably be gears or something like that. And the frame can split into 2, by the way. And I might have to use like a pin vise or something to poke out some of those little metal things, like 96, for example, to poke out those things so I can get those gears out if those gears ever go bad. But it shouldn't. These are higher quality plastic gears that Broadway made later on. Pretty much around later QSI, they pretty much got their gear quality back on track. Blue Line, they're pretty good for the most part. Paragon 2, I've barely heard any issues about Paragon 2 models when it comes to gear stuff. And Paragon 3 for the most part as well, unless it's the North Fork and Western J. So I'm not really worried about the quality of the gears as much, but if I ever need the parts, I can always reference this and do the service portal online on their website at BroadwayLimitedImports.com and so on and so forth by going to their support page. So that's the only thing unique about this box. I mean, I like it. It's got more of like a really nice cardboard, luxury kind of feel to the box. And right here it tells you everything you need to know about the model. Made in China, Paragon 3, FCC ID, blah, 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 blah. In Paragon 3, blah, 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 DC, DZC. So you can't use these in DC, guys, in the DC sound-only mode. So you can use it that way. You can probably look up a video on how to do that if you want to. I do DCC, so there's no really point for me to do that. This is number 2911, PRR L1s 282, Rolling Thunder and all that fun stuff. Product number 4041. So that's it for the box. It's one of the only unique boxes that, I think this is one of the only unique boxes you will find from Broadway Limited from the Paragon 3 era. I do not believe this box shows up ever again. I have not bought every single Paragon 4 product. I have no reason to. Number one. Number two, so I can't really tell if this kind of box design with the internals of protecting your model are the same. So that's it for the box, and we'll get back to this locomotive and open her up and see what the gearbox looks like from below. Alrighty, let's crack this baby open. First, we're going to remove this guy back here. I should use you don't really need tweezers. Just be careful so you don't, crack the plastic or anything or break the brake details. Unscrew that and put this screw over here because I do not want to lose it. There's a whole bunch of screws up here that I haven't gotten rid of. They come from all sorts of coders, like this QSI decoder for an E7. It's still there for some reason. I plan to sell these all in bulk at some point. It's like if people want spare decoders, you know, I'll probably sell them all on eBay and say, hey, I got spare decoders for all these BLI models, and you can just plug and play them. They're all good, so yeah, there's only like 5 screws you need to unscrew to get this bottom plate off for the gearbox. Now we should be able to open this. I want to make sure that I can. Whoop. Can I do it? No, I might have to loosen this up a bit. I don't want to loosen it too much. Okay, so that's going to be important, whatever just fell down. But, yeah, I guess you could see like that. I don't need to take it completely off. But yeah, here's, we got bearings. Yes, bearings are good. You don't necessarily need bearings. For example, the Bachmann K4 is pretty good without the bearings. It could make it run longer, but it only runs a very long time. I already have a couple of them that are like at least a decade old now, and they still run really well. Here's the gearbox in here, and as you can see, we've got more of these grayish, gunmetal gray colored gears right here. They're plastic, but man, do they do a good job. These will not break unless you're stupid and you try to break them yourself by holding the model down while the motor's trying to do full power. Do not do that, guys. Come on. Got traction tires right here. This model technically doesn't need traction tires, realistically. Said it's got a die-cast spoiler, but I digress. It's Broadway's thing. They like to add traction tires, kind of like how they like to do O-scale models with traction tires. Which makes sense, because they don't have enough weight even for their size for some reason. But hey, it is what it is. And that's pretty much it. Now, this model might need a little bit more lubrication, and I can do that in a little bit later when I do the TCS WOW install. I'm not sure if we're going to do it tonight. Maybe sometimes later. It depends on how long this is going to take, because I'm going to have to do all the wiring for the headlight, the cab light, and the front and rear marker light. So that will be a little fun thing to do. But yeah, it's quality gearbox in here. Nothing really to worry about or cry about. So that's good right there. And the next part we'll do is we'll take the locomotive shell off and the tender shell off to take a look inside that. Alrighty, now that we got all the shells off, first I want to show you something. Does something look familiar? Really, does something look familiar? Indeed, something does look familiar. These motors look pretty much exactly the same. This is a 3-pole motor, Walther's Trainman, or Trainline, actually, it's a Walther's Trainline. Alco FA1 3-pole motor. Yeah. However, these are pretty fine, actually. There's one of these inside my J1, and it has yet to fail. At any point, if something does happen, I will contact Broadway to give me a 5-pole version of this when that time does come. But for right now, I do not have that issue, so I don't really have to worry about it. It's a shame. Paragon 3 was that era where Broadway cheaped out on the motor quality a bit. For example, this motor right here is a Paragon 3-pole motor from a Pennsylvania T1 as delivered. And this thing failed. It burned out one of the poles in here. It's a 3-pole. It looks like a 5-pole, but it's a 3-pole. Now, I heard that Atlas, with some of their latest models, has a motor like this. And they crap out too. They burn a pole out. And I bet you it's probably something that looks like this. Now, if somebody wants to prove me wrong, please prove me wrong. I'd be glad to be proven wrong. But yeah, This is a no-no. This is a very bad. Uh, Paragon 3 was known for this decoder, the HO300 early series before H. Before H or I, HO300I or HO300H, they had these decoders, and they had this silver capacitor. They suck. They are crap, and they're terrible. Some people are like, well, I've never had an issue. Good for you. I'm just telling you from my experience, these are not good. Now, for this model, I have not had any issues with it. No. But I want to get rid of it before those issues start to happen. And I don't need that possibly causing issues with this. So, I'll be doing a TCS WOW project on this soon. Very soon. Other than that, this is what we have. We have a smoke unit in the firebox. We got this extra weight right here. Pretty nice. I like it. Some extra weight in the boiler. We got plus and minus over here. There's a board right here that does plus and minus. Brown's probably for brown for the positive, and black's for the negative. Cool beans, right? Cool beans, am I right? Cool. And then we got more wires coming where the smoke unit is. Oh, there's like that other thing. I don't have one right now to show you what it is, but it's got like a bunch of like JST plugs plugged into like some sort of board here that does like things, to say the least. Last time I already checked in here. There are indeed thrust washers between the bearings and the worm gear inside here. It's not something I really want to open again. I have to mess around with. Luckily, this time around, these are already conjoined together. So if I want to do plus and minus, I can already do that already. Do all the plus for the headlight, twist the wires together, solder them together, and then continue from there to over here, for example, right? There you go. Plus and minus for the 3.3 volts. And the ground I will have to do individually. Each ground, I'm going to have to take this piece off right here, or take this tape off and be able to look down there in order to do what I want to do. So it'll be an interesting model once I do that. But yeah, doing a TCS WOW job will probably not be as bad as the H10. The H10's not terrible. It's just, it's a tight space in that little guy. So you got a little bit more space working with right here. With right here, it's the same story. You might need to trim some of your wires on your TCS WOW's 9-pin JST plug. But we'll get to that when I do the TCS WOW install for this. You got 3 wires coming from here as well. You could probably read that board so you can do the headlight and the marker lights for this. So that will probably be easy. You got your 9-pin over here. It's an 8-pin, I'm sorry. It's an 8-pin plug right here. Goes right into the locomotive. And you can really look at this in order to help you figure out what you're going to do. Once you understand wiring schematics of Broadway models, you can pretty much do everything. Farthest right pin is always going to be right rail, and the farthest left, pin number 8 is going to be left rail. Pin number 2, pin number 7, motor plus or motor minus, you can always test it out and just, before you shrink wrap them inside the tender, you can figure that out and just resolder if it's backwards. And pin 3 is always going to be 3.3 volts, so that's going to be your voltage input that's going to go in here for all your lighting. And then GND is the fourth, GND is the 5th pin. The 4th pin is a sensor, and you can use that as an output for the cab light or the marker lights if you want. It doesn't really matter. 5th pin is GND. GND you can use for the headlight. Simple as that. Pin number 6 is another sensor, another sensor, probably for smoke and whatnot. One of those the reed stitch sensor, and the other one's for the smoke stuff, probably. I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest, because I'm not going to use smoke anymore. Pin number 6 you can use for the other lighting function, or again, you could choose between the marker lights or the cab light. And we're right back to whatever's motor minus for pin 7, and then pin 8 is your left rail. And that's pretty much it. It's general run-of-the-mill, probably limited, pin patterns and combinations. So this is what you get. A motor that I haven't tested long enough. This model is probably at least 5 years old, so I'm not really worried about it so far. I haven't ran this too much, to be honest with you, so I can't really give you an idea of what a long-term test would be on, like, let's say a fair ops kind of thing at my club. So we'll have to get back to that at some point in terms of that kind of quality. Otherwise, I could just swap out the motor. It's not a big deal. I'll just have to spend $30. But yeah, it's pretty nice. I mean, obviously when you were spray painting, you're not going to see that, so you're not going to worry about seeing that oxide red in there. This decoder, it's just, that's it. So how would I rate the mechanism, right? So the mechanism, I would give a solid 2 out of 3. The gearbox is fine, close to perfect. If it had metal gears in here, that would have been perfect. That would probably help me get over this a bit. This is a 3-pole motor. Not all 3-pole motors are bad. They can be quite as good as 5-pole motors in terms of performance. In terms of longevity, I am not 100% sure. Most people don't run trains as much as my club does. However, I really, really like the durability and testing the durability of things, especially at the train club. And I really like the idea that things can last for a very, 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 very long time. Kind of like a Toyota. So, yeah, it's a shame. And that's why I take the mark away from it. For the electronics, to be honest with you, when we get to the sounds, we'll finish up the electronics. But right now, I give the electronics a solid, I'd say 1.5 out of 3. And you might be wondering, like, well, it hasn't had any issues yet. But yeah, but the problem is that it's just you can't have interchangeability with this. You didn't have an option to have this with DCC ready. You don't have like a 8-pin / 21-pin board that you'll see kind of like this that was in my Bowser, Baldwin S12. Like, look, you get an option of putting an 8-pin or a 21-pin, and I did a TCS swap on that, and that they had a 21-pin. But yeah, this is what you normally get in like a DCC ready, Bowser locomotive, something like this. You get either 8-pin or 21-pin, and it's rather just plug and play after that. I mean, that's it. It's simplistic. It keeps the simplicity going. That's the only downside I really have, with Broadway. They want to simplify it for you. Now, whenever somebody wants to say they want to simplify something for you, most likely it's not going to be simplified for you, because when something goes wrong, you have to rely on them to fix it, because you don't know what they did, right? I don't know what some of these wires do, the sensor or the 2 S's that are in pin 4 and 6. I can't work with the smoke stuff here. And to be honest, I don't really need the smoke or really want it because of, reliability issues that can come along. So that's all I got to really say about, the electronic side. The smoke units can go wrong and they can cause melting boiler syndrome. The smoke units are pretty much the same every generation. They got the same shape, probably the same internals. They haven't really changed that much, except maybe the flue hole shape or whatever. And that's it. So what we're going to do now finally is do a test run of the locomotive on the loop. Do some, whistle and bell effects. The whistle's similar to another product that's in the Paragon 3 range. But other than that, the bell is pretty much similar to all the other steam engines. But the chuff is very unique on this one, and I don't really like it. And we'll see why in the next section. Okay, I got 2911 on the layout. So let's fire her up. I have 2911, Turn on the power. Fire in the hole. Pretty nice startup sound and sound from the dynamo. The water pumps could sound a bit better personally. They sound a little bit too computerish. Sound quality of the steam let off could be a little bit better, but it sounds fairly well. Let's listen to the whistle. It's a little bit too high of a shriek, but that's a really accurate PRR Banshee whistle, the single chime Banshee. Really, really nice. We got the bell. You hear it on other locomotives, that bell. It's not very unique at all. Function 25 gives you a special version of the Banshee whistle, like a run-by whistle. Sounds exactly like a real Banshee whistle. The whistle's really good. That's probably the only saving grace of this locomotive, to be honest with you, when it comes to sound quality, is the Banshee's really good. I wish the sound files themselves had a better quality to them. Now we'll go to the chuffing sounds, which is, in my opinion, one of the worst sounding chuff sounds ever. And boy, is this model really loud. I mean, that sounds fairly well, but man, does the quality sound bad. That's the sound that I do not like at all. It doesn't sound organic. I don't like it. Especially when you go at speed. I'm gonna have her back up. I mean, her slow speed control is incredible. I got 1%, and that's pretty slow. It's probably the best I've seen at any Paragon. Yeah, I really do not like that chuffing sound when it's at speed. This is 50% speed. Not good at all. I'll bring her back up to the front. But when it goes really slow, the sound file sounds pretty good. It's just that the quality is not that great. Probably because it's also really loud as default. You can always change the volume if you want. I'm just talking about like out of the box. It's just unnecessarily loud. But it's such a stunning model. I really want more of these, actually. I just don't have, like, I got storage things for these things that I just don't have enough. I would only get them if they were like $300 at most. I wouldn't pay more than that. I paid more for this one, but I really want to pay more than that for another one. So, let's round off the electronics. Initially, we have 1.5, right? All right. Well, I'll tell you this. It hasn't really changed that much, but that whistle is probably the only saving grace for the sound quality. And the motor control is pretty good, so I'll give it that. I'll bump it up to a 2 out of 3. Or let's say, to make it round off to a 10, I'll round it, let's say out of 4, right? I'll round it to a 2.5. That seems fair. 2.5 out of 4 for electronics. 3 for the, well, 2 out of 3 for the motor, and 3 out of 3 for the details, exterior-wise. So, what would this add up, right? Well, what we get is rather a 7.5 out of 10. Which you might think, that's pretty high for this model. I agree. That is pretty high. However, it's leaning more towards a flat 7 than an 8. It's closer to a 7 than an 8. This is not Broadway's finest. I almost want to make it less than that, but to be objective, it's a pretty fine model. It's pretty nice. The value is pretty much fair. I think it's a fair value for this unique model. It's painted, very well painted. It's already DCC ready. You don't have to worry about how to wire up your locomotive if it was brass or anything like that. So this model is pretty good for the value of $300 if you can get one. I wouldn't pay more than that at all. So if you want one of these, get it for $300 or less. Less would be great, but $300, that's fine. That's pretty good. It's a good value for $300. I don't remember what the original price for these were. I'll probably do some research and, figure out what the original MSRP for these things were online. And you can probably guess what the stores probably sold them for. They usually sell for like 20% off or 20, 30, or 40% off. Really about 20 to 30% in realistic terms. So, yeah, between 20 and 30% off the MSRP originally. And you can also do research on that right now on BroadwayLimited.com and BroadwayLimitedImports.com to be exact, but it doesn't really matter. You can probably look it up, Broadway Limited, and it'll show you the train website, the toy train website. And they still have it under the Paragon 3 tab with their Steam tab on their left side. And you click Paragon 3, you can find the L1s there, and you can definitely look up the pricing there, which I believe is I don't want to guess. But yeah, look it up. You'll probably figure out what it was originally, and you can probably guess what it was sold at stores for. Anywho, that wraps out this in-depth video, guys and gals. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next review down the road and for the TCS WoW install for this guy later on. Bye now.
Hear the lonesome hobo squall, riding through the jungle on the Wabash Cannonball. Well, the eastern states are dandy, so the western people say. St. Louis to Chicago, Rock Island by the way, from the hills of Minnesota where the rippling waters fall. No chances can be taken on the Wabash Cannonball. Oh, listen to the jingle, the rumble, and the roar as she glides along the woodland to the hill and by the shore. Hear the mighty rush of the engine, hear the lonesome hobo squall, riding through the jungle on the Wabash Cannonball. Now here's to Daddy Claxton, may his name forever stand, and may he be remembered in the courts throughout the land. When his earthly race is over, let the curtains round him fall. We'll carry him home to victory on the Wabash Cannonball. Oh, listen to the jingle, the rumble, and the roar as she glides along the woodland through the hill and by the